Hi, Earful. Good morning, and how are you today? I hope you had a very good weekend. Well, this morning we'll be having math, and we'll be looking at Unit 8. That's the final unit in Lesson 11. So please, we're focusing on student book page 238 to 240. Here we'll be making the answers, and also workbook page 189 to 190. So make sure you get your books, and as we go along, you can fill in your answers in your book. So we're still looking at measures. Remember we did lengths when we measured with our rulers. We had a very interesting lesson. And we did mass last week. You remember that? Where we were talking about heavy or light, kg or G, that's kilograms or grams. Now guess what we're looking at today? Okay, did you guess right? Let's see if you guessed right. We're looking at volume. Yeah, thumbs up if you guessed right. Now, what does volume measure? Length is measuring how long or tall or short. Mass is measuring heavy or light. What about volume? Can you guess what volume is measuring? Okay, well, volume is measuring how much quantity. Is it much? Is it plenty? Or is it little? That's what volume is measuring. Can you see these pictures? It's like some containers that we have there, and we have some things inside, some liquid inside the containers. And on the other one is saying how many scoops will it take to fill this container. That is what volume is measuring. How much can this container take? Okay, and in the lesson we're going to be seeing how we measure volume. But before we go ahead and listen, let's do some warm-up activity. Last week we talked about mass. So now can you remind me what are the units for measuring mass? You know, I have said it in the last slide, I've mentioned it. If you listened attentively, you would remember. So what's the units? I'll wait for you. Can you say it? Okay, let's see if you got the answer correct. The first one is grams and the second one is kilograms. If you got the answer correct, thumbs up. Great job. But if you didn't get it correctly, then please don't forget again that the units we use to measure mass is grams and kilograms. Now, look at the second question. 1000 kilograms is equal to 1 gram. True or false? Did you say true or false? Is that your final answer? Okay, let's see if you got the answer correct. It's false. It is 1000 grams that is equal to 1 kilogram. Remember, gram is smaller than kilogram. So 1000 gram is equal to 1 kilogram. Make sure you don't forget this again, okay? If you got the answer correctly, thumbs up. But if not, don't forget again. All right, let's go to the lesson. Our objective at the end of this lesson, you must be able to understand that we always use volume to measure how plenty is this thing or how little is this thing. We use volume to measure quantity. Also, you must be able to understand that we have units of measuring volume. You know, we have units for measuring length, MCMK. Remember, millimeters, meters, centimeters, and kilometers. Now, we also have units for measuring mass, grams and kilograms. What about the units for measuring volume? In the lesson, you will identify them. Let's go ahead. Also, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to read the measurements of volume. When you look at a container and you look at the number there, you should be able to tell how much is this thing measuring. And finally, at the end of this lesson, we want to be able to choose the most suitable units to measure different volumes. So we'll see different items and we'll be able to say whether we'll measure it in one unit of volume or the other one. So let's go ahead. Remember this? Measures. So we're looking at measures. The first one, we've looked at lengths. Do you remember we looked at lengths? Yes. We've also done mass. That's the one measuring weights last week. Remember we were reading a lot of scales last week. Now this week, this is the one we're looking at. Capacity. We can call volume capacity as well, okay? So it's okay if we say volume or capacity, okay? Now let's go ahead. Now let me ask you this question. Which type of measurements can we use to check whether something is plenty or little? Is it length? Is it mass? Or what do you think it is? Great job. It is volume. You want to know if this thing is plenty or if it is little, you use volume. Usually, volume is used to measure things like water, juice, and so on. Anything that is liquid. Okay? All right. What is the unit now to measure volume? This you need to pay attention. What is the unit to measure volume? The unit is milliliters and liters. Milliliters for small quantity and liters for plenty, that's much quantity. All right, let's go ahead. Now let's try to read this measurement. It's in your student book, page 238, so you can look at it, okay? Now look at what we have here. We have this container and there are numbers on it, and up there it's written ml. When you see ml, it means milliliters. Okay, now the water level is up to 20. There is water in it and it is up to 20. The blue color you see there is what we call what represents the water. So it means the water is 20 milliliters. Okay, what's the quantity of water in this little container? It is 20 milliliters. That's how we read the measurements. Now, let's try to measure the volume also in this measuring cylinder. Now we're on student book page 240. Write the volume of liquid in each measuring cylinder. Each of these containers are measuring cylinders, and we are asked to write the volume. All right, now let's measure. Look at the first one. It lines up with the number 600. The water in it lines up with the number 600. So how much milliliters is this first measurement? Good job, 600 milliliters. That's the answer. Okay, so you can start filling up your book. Now, what about the second one? The second one is lining up with number 800. So that means that our measurement here is good, 800 milliliters. So you can fill that up too as well. Now you know what will happen. I will leave the third one for you to try to look at. We have done two. So you try to look at the third one and write the measurements, fill in the measurements on your own, okay? All right. Now let's see the second question. It says find the total volume of water in the measuring cylinder. We have 4 measuring cylinders here. And we want to try to see how much the water measures. The first one is measuring up to 300, is on line 300. So we say this is 300 milliliters. The second one is 200. So we say this is 200 milliliters. The third is 100 milliliters. And the fourth one also is 100 milliliters. Now, you know what it's saying we should do? We should add everything together. So, how many milliliters in total is that? 300 plus 200 plus 100 plus 100. Now, can you write the answer? All right, I will leave you to write the answer. We have just add 300 and 200 and 100 and then 100. Can you see? I have the answer popped up here. So write it right in the box, okay? Write the number of milliliters in the box. Let's go ahead. All right, now we'll move on to the workbook. Let's choose the best units to measure the volumes. So we have the first one. What units will we use to measure this little water bottle? What units are we going to use? What do you think we will use? Milliliters or liters? Liters is for big one. It's for when it is much, plenty one. We'll use milliliters. Great job. All right, what's the next one? What's the next one? Okay, in this little container, we are going to also have milliliters. Okay, and in this big gallon, what are we going to have in the big gallon? Milliliters or liters? Good job. We'll have liters because it's a big gallon. And what about this? This is like a small coffee cup. Milliliters or liters? Milliliters. Great job. And what about our bottle? Bottle for like the big Coke or Fanta or Sprite. Is it going to be in liters or milliliters? This also is in liters. And look at this watering can. To water the garden, you need some quantity of water in it. Is this going to be measured in liters or milliliters? Of course, in liters, because the water in it is going to be much. Okay, all right, now make sure you fill this in your books and let's see if we'll be able to take another one. Yes, workbook page 190. So here we'll read the measurements and we will write the volume. Now look at the first one. It's measuring up to where we have line 200. So what will we say the measurement is? Yes, 200 milliliters. Good job. What about the second one? Now look at this one. It is no longer on 300. It has gone past 300 to the next line. And after the 300, the next one we have up there is 400. So I think between 300 and 400, somewhere in the middle, we should have 350, right? That should be half. So if we have 350 in the middle, it means this one on the first line after 300 should be 310, right? Good. So we have 310 milliliters. What about the third one? Now this one is on 400, but on the second line after 400. So the first line will be 410. The second line will be 420. So we will say we have 420 ml. Okay, now I'm going to leave you to answer D, E, and F just to be sure that you understand very well. Now we've had an interesting lesson. Today, we learned that volume is used to measure quantity. When you want to measure quantity, how much it is or how little, it is volume that you use. We've also seen the units that we use to measure volume, milliliters and liters. Also, we've been able to learn to read the measurements of volume that we have on our measuring cylinders. Now we know when it is 420 milliliters, we know when it is 310 milliliters, because now we can read it on our measuring cylinder. And finally, we can use the best units to for different measurements. Like if you see a big gallon, you can tell whether it is supposed to be measured in milliliters or in liters. And if you see a small one, you can tell if it is supposed to be milliliters also or liters. All right, students, this is where we end our lesson for today. Make sure you complete the workbook and the student book for today's lesson. Tomorrow we'll go to another one and we'll look at the remaining part of our workbook and student's book. Remember to always stay safe, wash your hands regularly, and keep safe all the time. Till we have another lesson tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye.